wirelesses that I was consulting to called Jaybalan and Dhanesh, who became my first two employees, and then Ashok from BSNL. So these are three guys. So I grew the consulting team. So I said, instead of me doing it alone, it was a time and material model, but I couldn't do it. I could scale it only to a certain amount. So the three of us in the picture, we became a 4-man consulting team. But I did in this business plan to kind of do something which was not a time and material model, but a recurring revenue model, which is to set up. When I was consulting to SIFI and all these other ISPs, realized that they were only targeting dial-up customers and not really doing something for the enterprises. And then I wrote a business plan that would set up infrastructure, world-class infrastructure in India, and also provide, provide services to mission critical enterprises. And that's how I ended up. So the first three people who joined me became co-founders because we raised money after they had joined. So and that was Jagdish decided to invest, as I said, in '99 November, and then in 2000 February we signed a term sheet when people realized that. So by then what happened was Rajesh exited India World. It was a huge, it was a 500 crore exit. Right, India World got acquired by SIFI, and again, so there was a huge, suddenly everybody wanted to fund internet companies in India. So E-Ventures was one of the venture capitalists there. So when they learned that Jagdish is going to angel invest in us, and at that time Exodus' market cap was $25 billion, and Jagdish Chandra was just exiting out of Exodus. So when they realized that they wanted to fund us, right, then we had to turn down some venture capitalists. We ended up taking money from E-Ventures, and so it was me and the three co-founders. Actually, Dhanesh was the senior most co-founder because he was the business person, and then the two other technical guys were also co-founders. And we were complementing skills. Jaybalan had a network background, kind of like me, so there was an overlap between Jaybalan and me. Ashok was a systems guy, so servers, databases, operating systems. And Dhanesh was M&E guy, so for setting up your air conditioning, UPSs and stuff, he had that kind of a background. And between Dhanesh and I, we looked after the business as well. So that's how we ended up. So we actually got funding with just 4 people. And it was a capital intensive business, but since the positioning was to be a carrier neutral data center at that time, and there was a company which is now very famous, doing very well, called Equinix, that had just got funded by one of the partners that funded us. And he liked that model, so maybe I just got lucky that I pitched to him, and so they decided to invest in us, and so the first round we did in July 2000, where we had some angel funding, about 4-5 crores of angel funding. I put in 1 crore from whatever savings I had, and E-Ventures put in about 12 crores in the company. So that's how we set up our first data center.
So we'll get into the funding discussion. That is something which is of interest to most of the audience here. I want to touch upon your competition at that time, right? You said that the major player at that time was obviously BSNL, which was a government entity, and then the market was thrown open to private players. So what kind of competition did you have? If I understand right, you would lease bandwidth from BSNL and resell it in a way, right? So why would a customer come to you? How do you deal with that kind of competition? If someone would have asked me at that time, that I'm going to provide you services where BSNL is also doing that. Yes, BSNL, the government organization, has problems there. Why would someone come to Netmagic? Is it because I don't want to deal with a government organization? And it's a simplistic question, but I'm asking that to understand, how you thought about.
There were enough people who said, look, you are at the end of the day buying limited bandwidth from BSNL. I'll get better connectivity from BSNL. There were customers who stayed on at BSNL because of that, and rightly so. I mean, they had a much bigger, fatter pipe than we could afford at that time.
And I'm sure that you were thinking that that's not going to suffice. That's not sufficient for you to be able to.
But end of the day, in our business, there's a environment for the server. So you have to have very good UPS systems, generator backups, air conditioning. That we were far superior. BSNL being a government organization, in the first data center at that time, I remember Rediff when was hosted at BSNL, they had to bring their own UPSs in the data center because BSNL did not have enough UPS infrastructure. There were pigeons that came into the data center at that time. They had a window that was open, water leaked into it sometimes. So it was at that time not really. They did the concept of having a world-class data center didn't exist at that time, and so those were some set of issues. Of course, now Tata's have absolutely world-class data centers, and they are our toughest competition right now. But at that time, one, the infrastructure wasn't good. Secondly, nimbleness. In a government organization, you can't expect fast response. So these were the two. Of course, the negative, from a connectivity perspective, they were obviously far superior at that time. Now even that is a level playing field. So we ended up getting customers who wanted service, who wanted nimbleness, who wanted good infrastructure, didn't want their servers to go down when the power went and stuff like that. And then over a period of time, started getting more customers.
So I guess the sort of lesson, if I may say so, from here is that yes, it is possible to take on monopolies and giants. You have to have some value add. So there are things that which they were not doing. If you can identify what they are not doing, what the customers want, then you can definitely make a name for yourself. Obviously, today Netmagic is a major player. It's a name. It's I'm not going to say that it's easy to get customers, but comparatively, when you started, obviously it must have been a lot more difficult to get those customers than it is today.
Absolutely, it was tough initially because you didn't have any references, you didn't have any case studies, but there were customers who were fed up of dealing with the government organization, for example. I remember one of our first large, two flagship customers that we had. One was India Infoline, right, which is still a large customer, one of our largest customers. They were fed up, they had issues with BSNL and they just moved bag and baggage. One fine day, Nirmal Jain, the CEO, just took a gamble with us. They were the first large customer that we got. And the other big customer that made a big impact for us was Bazi.com. That came 1 year later, but these two references were very big for us when we could go to, because now it's Flipkart, by the way. But at that time, these were the two references. We have two types of customers, just to give a quick background. One is enterprises that are hosting a central application like an ERP or a core banking application, which need not be connected to the internet. And then others are internet-centric companies. Now, virtually 80% of e-commerce, I think, goes through our data center. We have Flipkart, Make My Trip, Yatra, ClearTrip. Virtually there's mobile BaaS, travel, e-commerce, and online trading, stock broking. Almost 80% of that is with us.
That's really wonderful, Sharad.
And Flipkart, by the way, my bet is that they will succeed. A lot of people question. I know I'm staying off, but just since we're on it, they've tripled their business with us in 1 year, and the way they're growing is just amazing. I'm both a user of Flipkart as well as a service provider to Flipkart, and just brilliant team, very intelligent, and doing extremely well.
Yeah, that's a great side comment, Sharad. In fact, there is more discussion and opinion that they'll probably not succeed. It is a growing market. It's a very an interesting market. Obviously something that has a lot of potential. People will definitely go on to online retail rather than going into stores. It's a lot more convenient. You may not do that regularly, but it does definitely have potential. But then, looking at the kind of problems that Flipkart has been seeing with their number of returns and the overheads and returns and so on, the amount of money that they're spending and advertising, etc. There's a lot of sort of opinion today that questioning whether this is a sustainable model for them at all. Not just for Flipkart, but...
No, I think they'll make it. I don't know about the other e-commerce companies. They have a lot of e-commerce customers, but I know Flipkart will. I have seen the team, the founding team and the key technology guys, and they're absolutely brilliant.
So I
personally believe they'll make it. Time will tell.
I need to figure out a way to invest in Flipkart. So we talked upon why you started your venture. We touched upon that a bit earlier. It would be interesting to understand what entrepreneurship means to you. When you got into entrepreneurship, all of us have certain ideas of what it is about. So what does it mean to you when you got into it? Were there things that you had thought it would be, but it turned out it wasn't that? Or that you came across experiences and learnings which you had just not anticipated, that you never thought that entrepreneurship is going to be this. So what does...
No, so as I said earlier, one of the main reasons for doing my own business was was to be your own boss, right? And especially after being exposed to the Indian environment at that time, and after having worked in the US,